Hi, I'm Julie Thompson. Welcome to the Pembroke Select Board candidate interview. I want to take a moment to thank our candidate for participating in this interview and collaborating with PAC TV to bring this informational programming to residents and voters this election season. Let me explain the format. We will be conducting a one-on-one interview style Q&A format with each candidate, lasting about 30 minutes. Responses will not be timed, and follow-up questions may be asked during this format. We aim to ask up to about 4 questions, but that will depend on the length of responses along with any follow-up discussion during this exchange. Candidates will be allowed to address anything not covered or that they would like to add clarification to at the end of the interview in their closing remarks. Let's get started. Today we're speaking with Tracy Marino, one of the 3 candidates running for 2 seats for the Pembroke Select Board in the Pembroke Town election. Tracy, thank you so much for joining us virtually today.
Thank you for having me, Julie.
Sure, we're going to get right into the questions. Question 1. The conditions of the roads in Pembroke are a constant source of discussion, debate, and of course, great financial implication. In 2021, the town hired a consultant to conduct an inventory and analysis on the road network, which was presented to the Select Board in January of 22. Most recently, the Town of Pembroke Roadway Capital Improvement Plan was discussed at the April 5th Select Board meeting. What are your thoughts on past and future plans and outcomes for pavement management?
I think that now that we have, I think in the past it has been an ongoing problem, and it didn't seem or feel like there was actually any work being done to repair that. However, I will say that since having our new town manager join us, can you hear me okay?
Sure, yep.
Okay, it just seemed like I was bleeping out. We've worked really hard on developing this roadway pavement plan. We just launched it on the website last week. I think now that we really have our eyes on it and a plan, as long as we continue to stick with that plan and reevaluate it and continue to seek out funding and, God willing, have funding approved at town meeting for our roadways, I think that we're in a good place now. I think that moving forward, we'll be able to continue the path we're on of not allowing things to get as bad as they did in the past, because then you're just constantly playing that catch-up game. And now that we're going to actually have maintenance on a rolling basis, I think we'll be in a good place moving forward.
That's great. And just, are you starting with the roads that are really in bad shape, or is there a specific strategy to how that's going to get rolled out?
Well, yes and no. Everybody's very excited to see Monroe Street. Monroe Street has been a hot topic for a very long time. Yeah. It is a mess. And that's actually one of the very first ones on the list. It really depends on what level of work they need. They're not all the exact same. There were already some things done in the past few months that I know that I heard from residents, like, why are we doing this road when we have this horrible road that's so much worse? But it's just a matter of that ongoing maintenance and getting everything up to par so that we can continue it.
So you feel confident that this new plan, as long as we stick to it, is going to keep up with what we need to keep up with to keep the roads in fairly decent condition?
Yeah, I think just having the long-term planning is key for most any of our maintenance type of issues.
Right. Okay, great. Number 2, the Recreation Commission is an important component of our town. Pembroke is in the process of hiring a new director of recreation. What components of this position do you feel could or should be expanded, and how do you think the new community center and all its potential programming will affect the range and responsibilities that this position might have?
Recreation director is going to be a hard one to fill. We've had the same person for a very long time, who is a much loved resident of Pembroke, friend and family everywhere. I think it's just going to be very important to have someone who's willing to collaborate with the groups that have been there all along. Somebody who can collaborate with the town manager, who's, I feel like this with the new recreation director, it'll be much more involvement coming on our end. I think the collaboration is a big key in most of our positions, but I think that with the recreation, it's going to be very important. The loss of that programming, the summer program, the after-school program, having to move over to Bryantville was problematic for a lot of people. A lot of our residents use those programs. They're inexpensive. They're their child care. There was a lot of worry that that was not going to continue while we were building the community center. But I think the recreation director is going to be a large piece in creating some new and exciting programming, and then maintaining what we've had that we've all expected and would love to keep on.
And what do you just talk about the new community center for a second? What are you looking forward to the most on that?
I mean, outside of having something in our town center that, I mean, looks nice, that's, aesthetics are always a nice piece of it. It will be nice to have a center where we would have a locations to gather. So, I mean, the community center is a part of that. But I would love to actually create a real walkable town center. But this, to me, is going to be the first main piece of that, where we have the town green. We have a lot of events surrounding the community center in the past. The tree lighting. A lot of scouts use it. We used to have a farmers market. I know that there's a group in town actually revisiting, bring that back. The herring run's not far from there. The new Laggy property. I just think that it will be nice to have a place where the community can start to gather for different things, programs, walks, and let's remember it's the Council on Aging as well. So for that whole group to be able to start having more programming, I mean, they have a very small space, classes, outdoor events. I'm just excited to bring it back to community use and that whole area.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, question number 3, water. Its source, its delivery method, its purity, and its limited supply are all areas that have been and continue to be of great concern and have great impact on the town. Water restrictions have become commonplace from May to September, and that trend is likely to continue. What plans or suggestions would you make for improving the existing water supply and rules of usage?
Well, the water is very much always a hot topic, and we all know what happened this past year. That was rough for everybody. I think the water bans is not it's not something that I think is happening more often just strictly in Pembroke. I think that's kind of happening in multiple areas at the same time. And conservation is a big piece of that. I feel like there's a lot of investigation to do with the conservation piece, conserving. I know we've worked with the North and South River Watershed Association a lot on some programming. They do a lot of education. I think that bringing them in to do some educational pieces on conservation would be helpful, very helpful. And I know that from speaking with them, they were very interested in that. We talked a lot about it last year, of course, when we had the water ban. The other piece, I think, is we talk a lot about the water agreement, the Brockton Water Agreement in Silver Lake, and water, maybe.
Yeah, can you just explain it for the people that don't understand what that was or what is or what it's supposed to be? Can you just briefly tell?
It's a tough one. So the agreement is we can providing water in a manner to multiple towns where we don't necessarily get it. And it's not that they're taking our water, so it's taking water from us where we're not then able to utilize our own water. But it was an agreement that was made so many years ago. I'm not going to insinuate that it can just be changed magically, but I think that it's not something we should necessarily just accept and not have eyes on it and not look into it a little further and maybe talk about it again, have conversations with some stakeholders that would be able to educate us maybe a little bit more on what other choices and options there might be regarding the agreement. But I think that's a huge discussion that we probably wouldn't have time for today, but I do think that it's time to revisit that before we end up in the situation we were in again.
Right. And the people that constantly are complaining about having brown water, can you just explain that? Because some people still don't understand why that happens.
And again, I mean, there's definitely a few different reasons that could happen. It could be as simple as somebody's working on a pipe, or they're clearing out water from a fire hydrant. I know that when there's any work being done, there's always emails and Facebook posts or social media posts about what you need to do after your water is brown. I think sometimes people's water tends to stay brown because they didn't actually go through the cycling that needs to happen to, clear it out. And I know it's annoying. It happens to me constantly as well. It's always at the most inopportune time, but unfortunately some, maintenance does need to take place, and it does happen periodically. I feel like I've definitely heard from some residents that it seems like it happens more often in their neighborhoods than perhaps others. Not 100% sure on why that could be, but I assume it has something to do with where they're located in the town specifically.
Right. And one last question. the residents that have paid to have wells dug for irrigation for their lawns, not for their actual drinking, do you think that they should have the same water restrictions because they're all drawing from the same aquifer?
I'm not really sure about that. I'm not really sure about that, actually. I haven't thought about it. If they're, you know what, I would have to look a little bit more into that. I'm not sure of the details on how the wells work
Okay.
to be able to answer that. I don't want to.
Fair enough. Thank you. Okay, fair enough. All right, we'll go on to question 4. The Pembroke Public Safety Building has been in the works for many years. Originally replacing both police and fire as separate projects was discussed. Now a combined public safety building with an additional fire substation is as close to fruition as a yes vote at town meeting for the appropriation and then a required Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion vote on the ballot for May 13th election. Are you voting yes or no on this project, and why?
I am voting yes. When this was first brought, well, I shouldn't say first because it has been many years, but when this was brought forth for placement on the warrant not so long ago, I was hesitant to vote to have it placed on the warrant. My concern was we didn't seem to have a lot of information to go with, and I would say that over the last maybe 6 weeks, we've had presentations and forums and the public safety building committee updates. I feel so much more comfortable now. There was just a lot of seemingly not unanswered questions, just not a lot of solid communication, I guess. Mm-hmm. So at this point, I feel comfortable with it. I'm voting yes. I think it's time. I know that there's a lot of worry about. There was a lot of pushback regarding the Turner House, so that was a big piece of that. But I think at this point, combining the two is ideal. Mm-hmm. The committee has been working hard at this for a few years now. It's beyond time. We've all seen the police and fire departments, I assume, at this point. They cannot stay in there. They just cannot stay in those buildings any longer. And I just don't see any use in prolonging it any further than we already have.
And what do you say to residents that say, we approved the community center, and now we're approving another multi-million-dollar building, and they're all within a couple of years?
I know. I understand. And I honestly, if it was my choice, I feel like it would have been so much better if we had the public safety building ready to go before the community center. I just feel like this was the product of a lot of lack of long-term planning, and it is not ideal to do them so closely. I know that's not everybody's favorite thing, but I just think this is the position we're in, and we really need this public safety building now. There's really no getting around it. So it's necessary.
Okay, thank you. And the last question I have for you is, let's say a friend called you and said that they were considering moving to the South Shore, and they're looking as Pembroke as one of the towns they might move to. How would you describe the town for that friend, citing all the positives, but also the areas that you really believe need improvement? And please be honest and specific.
Well, I love my town. So I actually moved here from the city. I was never going to stay here. I came with my 2-year-old daughter, and after her, I've had 4 more children. So once my daughter started kindergarten, I was sold. So we were here about 3 years before I decided that I was not leaving. Placing my kids in school here was a start for me. I really enjoyed the school system. I have 5 children, like I said, multiple different needs. I have children with special education concerns, maybe some mental health stuff. I've had a lot of support from the school system, from our town in general. Outside of the school, I feel like it's a very small town, community-based area. I really like that small town feel. I know sometimes people don't love that everybody knows your business, but I like going to CVS and running into 12 people that I know. I love that we have all these types of small town events that brings our community together. I'm very much about the community. I really enjoy that small town community feel to our town. I think that, improvement-wise, I think it tends to be the same thing. Our roads are certainly nightmarish to drive through sometimes. Driving down 36 it just is not a welcoming area, although we don't have a lot of say on that state. But I think that having a real true center would be important. We can't prevent growth. Our towns and cities, there's going to be growth, but I think that we can contribute to it in a way that makes sense for us specifically. And I really want the growth. We really need the revenue. I want to see these small businesses continue to come in. We have a lot of great small businesses, but we need to build like an atmosphere that would not only work for these people who want to move here, these businesses who want to come in, but something that actually makes sense for Pembroke. A lot of people are afraid of losing that small town feel and moving into more of a city type of feel. And I think as long as we participate in the growth, then we can make it make sense for what we want for our town. So I don't really have anything negative to say about Pembroke. I love it here. I intend to stay here forever. And I welcome people to help out with.
So let me ask you on something you said about the small town versus the city. We don't have Pembroke does not have a very big tax base, corporate tax base at all. The residents tend to pay most of it. How do you so the residential taxes go up and up and up. How do you circle that square?
We have I feel like it's back to enticing these businesses to come to Pembroke and stay here. I still don't feel like we have a true center of town, which I think is a big piece of that. My vision, I'm on the master plan committee as was one of the selectmen appointees, which we're really enjoying working on right now. So I think I'm just always thinking of that part of it as like, okay, we have the community center, let's have sidewalks and, invite stores or restaurants of some sort should all be in that small area. And then we have sidewalks where we have the elderly housing and they have the ability to walk to these areas. That type of atmosphere creates, a desire to stay. You have this, and then we also have this whole area of like the industrial parks over off of Oak Street. There's a lot of room for growth over there. I just think it's really creating an atmosphere that welcomes these businesses and really encourages them to stay. I know that our Chamber of Commerce has recently kind of reinvigorated themselves, and that's been really exciting. I just went to a recent meeting over there, a meet and greet kind of thing, and it was nice. There was quite the turnout, so that was awesome. I think the Chamber does a really great job of supporting these businesses, and I think that this whole new kind of board and restart of the Chamber could be helpful. I think another thing is that we need to create some sort of more of a partnership with the Chamber and the town together. I think that would really be helpful. Maybe have different businesses come out and present at board meetings and introduce themselves. And it's nice to actually see people face to face. I think that could be helpful as well, and know who you're dealing with. And it's not so intimidating to come to a select board meeting when you need something, ask for a license approval or something. I think it's just about building that collaboration and being a welcoming environment for that area.
Right. Excellent. For the last few minutes, is there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about? Because this is your chance to speak to the voters. And then tell the voters why you are running again and why they should vote for you.
I did draw up a little statement. Is it okay if I just read it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I wasn't sure if you needed an opening statement or not for me today. First, I would like to thank you for having me. I just wanted to introduce myself because I know not everybody knows me. I've been a resident here for about 25 years. I have 5 children. 3 are adults, and 2 of my youngest are currently at Bryanville and at the middle school. I do work as a school bus driver at First Student. I drive for the Pembroke and Silver Lake schools. I have owned and operated a photography business in this town for 11 years. I also recently began substituting as a paraprofessional in our schools. I really try to be involved in all aspects of our town. Since I've been a member of this community, I've involved myself in everything possible to contribute in a positive and meaningful way to our town. I am a board member of the Middle School PTO, the Friends of the Pembroke Library, Open Space Committee, Pembroke Community Cleanup Group, Pembroke Watershed, etc. I've also served on multiple groups as a volunteer, and I'm not going to list all of that. Since I've been on the select board, I have prided myself on going above and beyond any required responsibilities. I have been the advisory and school committee liaison. I served on the working group for Ludham's Ford Dam project, the small business grant, helped rewrite the community comment and liaison policies, and I am the board's appointee to the Master Steering Plan Committee. Like I said, I'm very excited about that one. I have helped to reinstate the annual Community Cleanup Day, hosted Narcan trainings in partnership with PPD and PCO, started a trail stewardship program, hosted our first annual mental health resource fair, and has begun organizing babysitting at our town meetings. I'm also currently working with the town manager, town clerk, and the elementary schools to create a fifth grade town government field trip. This is going to bring the fifth graders in from the elementary schools, and we're going to teach them how to vote, how to pay a bill, how to find the different offices in town hall, and teach them what each of them would be for. We do have a number of important issues coming up. We did talk about a few of those: the completion of the community center, the council on aging, the public safety building. We are going to possibly have multiple empty buildings around our town center, which will need some decision making. Our DPW is in need of repair, probably replacement. Roadways and water, as we said, are always a hot topic. Pending town meeting, the other part, that was another piece I did want to discuss briefly, is the possibility of creating a committee to research joining the social VOTEC. I know that's more of a school type of thing, but it is an important effort to me. I think that I know there's a lot of details that go into this, and it's not so simple as to say, yes, we should just do this, but I think that it's very important that we create this committee and at least do our research and come back with a logical plan or answer on what to do next about VOTEC choices for the students. It's really awful that they have no choice at all. At least we should do our due diligence for that. So I'm hoping that passes a town meeting, and if it does, I would very much like to be on that committee. I think communication can always use improvement, but I have worked hard to build up communication and collaborations between town government, town employees, boards and committees, and our residents. I do have no agenda outside of my desire to serve my community in the best way I know how. I offer our town an open-minded, thoughtful vote, solid communication, transparency, and a willingness to work with and listen to all of our residents, and I would very much like to continue my work on the board this term.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
Thank
Tracy. Thank you for participating in this interview. We're going to wish you the best of luck throughout your campaign and in the election. For our viewers, thank you for joining us. If you're interested in watching replays of this interview, please visit our website, pactv.org, for replay times and online viewing options, including PAC TV's on-demand and streaming service, PAC TV Prime. And please make your choices heard by voting in the election on Saturday, May 13th. Thank you and good day.